Good afternoon and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and DLive. My name is Tom Luongo. How are you guys this afternoon? I got a lot to talk about today. Today is the day before the end of politics as we know it in the United Kingdom and possibly all of Europe. So, hoping that we get some people in the stream. I'm going to take a couple minutes to wait that out for a second. So, it is the day before European parliamentary elections are due to be held in Europe, starting in Europe on today, going through this weekend. We've got, and so you can, as always, you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me. You can follow me over at Twitter at TFL1728. And there's just a lot going on. And in the last couple of hours, even as I was putting slides together, I was having to check for this, to put talking points together for this. I noted that I had to check the latest news because we almost had a resignation by Theresa May this afternoon. But let's get into what's actually going on here. The latest polls coming into the election have Nigel Farage's Brexit Party polling at over 37%. And when you start to factor in the potential for voter apathy on the part of the Remain vote and voter anger over Brexit being betrayed, because who's got the more energy here, right? Is it Change UK, who can't get 5 people to show up to one of their events, or Nigel Farage, who's bringing thousands of people into his events? So when you note the difference in energy, because that's going to handicap how the vote actually turns out. So whatever the polls are telling you, the polls aren't necessarily going to be accurate. The trend will be accurate, but the numbers themselves will not be accurate. And especially when it comes to Europe at this point, because you could easily see total voter turnout well above what anybody's projecting. And God forbid for the people in Westminster that people show up tomorrow to vote in numbers that are similar to what we saw in 2016 for the Brexit referendum itself. Because if that happens, then Katie bar the door, Farage will walk away with an outright majority. Not a plurality, but he'll go with a plurality. He'll wind up with more than 50%. Because, and so when you're at 37 and your opposition is demoralized and the best they've got is to throw milkshakes at you and try and smear you over some money that was supposedly not properly reported, which, by the way, has gone absolutely nowhere. If that's the best they've got, then they don't have anything. So I want to go over the last poll. Mike Shedlock over at Mish Talks has got a great annotation to the latest polls coming out of Brexit. I'm going to pop it up here real quick. So this is the latest polling results, and these are with Mike's annotations, which I think are hysterical. So we've got Labour at 13%, and how they all stand for, right? You've got the Conservatives are now polling at 7%, and I told you that the minute they got anywhere close to 16%, that they would collapse completely. The Conservative Party will not exist in the United Kingdom within 2 years. So the Greens are at 12, the Lib Dems are at 19, and the Brexits are at 37. So imagine a voter turnout level that is above the normal 30 to 35% turnout, and we see something close to 40 or even 42 or even 45%. Right? What if that happens? Or what if the 35% that show up all vote Brexit? Whereas, the Greens and the Lib Dems, while they're getting people, they're grabbing voter frustration on the part of Labour. And it's very interesting to see, I'm going to talk about this in a second, how what we see here is that the Brexit vote has coalesced around Brexit. The Leave vote has absolutely coalesced around one party, whereas the Remain vote is split across at least 3 different parties. And only the really hardcore Remainers are the Greens, the Lib Dems, and probably, I guess, and you have to throw in 4 or 5% for this for the Scottish for the Scottish National Party as well. So, hard Brexit over hard Remain is still a majority, even with these numbers. And I don't think these numbers are wholly accurate either. And the 7% that are still willing to vote Conservative, those people aren't Remain. And you've got half of Labor that still wants to, that still doesn't want to, how much of Labor voters just can't bring themselves to vote for Nigel Farage. So this is a very interesting poll at this point in time, because if voter turnout does skew high, and I think emotions are much higher now than they normally are for European parliamentary elections. I think Bill Beebe saying that over on YouTube that they usually have a 30 to 35% turnout. He wouldn't be surprised about this. I would be surprised if I would be surprised if they only come in at baseline, because people's emotions are running much hotter for these elections than they have in 2014. This feels more like the run up to the Brexit vote in 2016 than it does than the last European parliamentary elections. Okay, so I can easily see, me personally, I know that we've gone through this here in the United States. It's happened before. You get very high turnout when people are emotionally invested in the outcome of an election, and people are absolutely emotionally invested in this election on both sides. But what's interesting is to watch how everything is coalesced. You have a staunch, no, seriously, whatever Farage comes up with out of this election on tomorrow, right, is going to be a good, solid representation of how many people truly do want to leave on WTO terms. And it's crazy to think that they're still trying weekly to play this game that, oh no, people really didn't know what they voted for or anything else. If you listen to that, I watched Nigel Farage give a speech, the other day, and he made complete fun of them making this argument, and the people were just so angry at being condescended to and lied to by the BBC and the House of Lords and everything. And Farage was talking about it all. He was talking about getting rid of the House. He was talking about reforming the House of Lords. He was talking about taking over freaking Westminster. He was talking about all of it. He was not shying away from any of it. And if that's the case, then we have the beginnings of a full-scale political revolution happening. It's not just in Britain. It's going to translate all the way across Europe. If they come out with a 45 or 46% result tomorrow, we won't know the results until Sunday, of course. That's 46%, 47%, even God's forbid for them, 50%. Forget it. Labour and the Tories will not be able to survive a general election, which is why today there's reports that Theresa May was due to resign by the end of the day, that Andrea Leadsom was going to resign so that she could run for a leadership challenge, which she should have done 2 years ago. And it's just sad, because what May tried to do, and look at what's happened here. The last thing that May tried to do as prime minister, and it's pathetic. This is how pathetic they are. First, they tried out Gordon Brown to accuse Farage of stealing, living the high life on the back of his rich benefactors, and to play the freaking the class warfare game. Look at what Theresa May tried to do. She was going to bring that ridiculously bad deal back for a fourth vote, completely ignore her party in every way, having first sat down for weeks with Jeremy Corbyn to craft some kind of deal, which was never going to happen. And then in this pathetic attempt to get Angela Merkel's deal across the line. Never forget that this is about May doing the bidding of the globalists who run the EU. This is about doing Guy Verhofstadt's bidding. This is about doing Donald Tusk's bidding. And I'm sorry, I don't see that anybody doesn't see this at this point. And that the sheer revulsion that exists, that everybody I've talked to and everybody I've interacted with over Brexit in the last 4 months is just, it's off the charts how angry they are. And the fact that she tried so cynically to bring forth a crappy customs union, bolt on a crappy customs union, and then turn around and guarantee to the Lib Dem, Green, and Labor Remainers that we'd give you a second referendum too. That's how desperate they are. That's how sad and pathetic they are. It's so fucking awesome to watch this play out. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've been holding myself back in so many ways about this, trying to keep an analytic mind. I'm like, oh, you know, this is fucking great. Watching these people fucking flail around like a bunch of fucking retards, having no idea how to actually contain this. We should be jumping up and down for joy. We shouldn't be holding it back. Because these people are scum. They're the worst of the worst of the worst. And finally, some people within the Tory party realize just how bad it is when they see themselves polling in single digits for a European parliamentary election. And they're now going to see themselves poll single digits for a general election. The latest numbers I've seen out of the general election for the Tories are pathetic. They drop below the 16% chasm. They drop below that they're done. They will become the new Whigs. 150 years, or however long the Tories have been how long the Tories have been around? 150, 200 years, gone overnight. Why? Brexit. Because Theresa May tried to sell out the British people to the continent of Europe and to the paymasters and the banksters. And the mafiosi that run the European Union and think their shit doesn't stink to the point where no matter what happens, you will do our bidding. No. And what she tried to do was she tried to bolt on that customs union and get that thing through. She knew, they all knew 2 months ago, or no, 2, 3, maybe 3 weeks ago when the first polls started to come out, that they were in trouble and that they would need to leave poison pills behind for Farage, because Farage is going to be prime minister, guys. Okay, it may not happen this next general election. It may be split, but it's going to happen. He's going to be prime minister by the time either this next general election or the one after that, because the next general election may just not be able to put together a government. And the EU is going to try and use that time frame to try and get a deal to like slip through a parliament that doesn't exist. Okay, and they're going to try to continue to push it forward in time. And I don't think it's going to be, possible. But Farage could easily become prime minister here if he translates this electoral success into, if he polls 45 or 50% tomorrow. Okay, he could easily count on 35% in the general election. And given the state of the playing field, 35% should be enough to build a coalition and form a government. Unless everybody else boycotts him. But then they can't form a government. There's no way that the rest of them will form a government. So then what? Then there's going to be pitchforks on Westminster, or they're just going to vote again, and eventually he'll get it past the line. And so trying to get the withdrawal treaty signed and across the line is their goal at this point, as a means by which to leave Farage in a position so that if he does become prime minister, he can't do anything. They think that they can just make it all legal and it won't matter. It's like, my lord, is that legal? I will make it legal. And that's the way these people fucking think. And that's the way you have to realize that's the kind of people that you're dealing with. It's no different than Petro Poroshenko in Europe and in Ukraine for the last 7 months of his presidency, leaving poison pill after poison pill after poison pill, knowing full well he wasn't going to be reelected. I mean, there was no doubt that Poroshenko was going to lose in Ukraine. So what did he do? He tore up the Treaty of Freedom between Ukraine and Russia. He tried the Kerch Strait incident. He split the Russian and Ukrainian Orthodox Church. He did all of these terrible, terrible things to leave his successor with no room to maneuver. Refused to negotiate with Gazprom for a new gas contract. It's the same thing. The withdrawal treaty is meant to try and tie Brexit up for another decade, even with a Brexiteer government, of course. But they have to realize they have to realize that Farage is fully prepared to institute Article 62 of the Vienna Treaties on Law and Treaty. And take the United Kingdom out of the EU under Article 62 of the Vienna Compact, the Vienna Agreement on Law and Treaties. Okay, that's the ace in the hole. That's in the background. Aside from the fact that then there's the legal challenge worming its way through the British courts about how the Brits actually left on the 29th of March anyway because the Withdrawal Act was never amended. So, all of this stuff happening, and it's pathetic and sad that Theresa May actually tried to sit there and she was asked to sell this one last time on behalf of Merkel and the banksters and everybody else. They're all scared to death, guys. You have to realize that when this goes down, the financial markets are going to go freaking ballistic. Okay? The Tories are in a complete meltdown. They have zero leadership at this point. It doesn't matter who takes over. It doesn't matter if it's Boris Johnson or Andrea Leadsom or anybody else. None of them are fit for office because the people don't want them. So it's fascinating. And from the moment Farage formed the Brexit Party, I had how many UKIPers come in here and tell me that Farage is just a stalking horse for the establishment. He's trying to split the Leave vote so that Remain can get through. I'm like, Remain can't even friggin' organize as to what they want. Oh, they're going to give us a second referendum and Farage is a traitor. And he's not. You guys are a bunch of morons with no political acumen whatsoever. I hate to break it to you, but you don't have any political acumen. It's the truth. I know it hurts. The truth hurts. The truth is rough. The numbers don't lie. Farage is at 37% and has coalesced the entire Leave movement behind him, both left, right, and center. UKIP is at 3% and on its way to the graveyard. El Vaquero reminds us that knowing what the EU is like, I know you have to start with a no-deal Brexit and then continue to ratchet up the leverage as hard as you can. They won't budge a single millimeter otherwise. It's true. It's absolutely true. You start with nothing. You give them nothing. They don't know how to negotiate. They never have negotiated. They've never once negotiated it with Greece, not with Italy, not with Britain, not with anyone, not with Russia, nobody. They just dictate terms like they're the fucking rulers of the world or something. These are the most useless fucking people. Guy Verhofstadt is vile. Paul Joseph Watson did a thing the other day with him, with him and Hitler going back and forth. It was awesome. How was it hard? It was even hard to argue with him, for Christ's sake. Juncker can't walk up a flight of stairs with a bottle in his hand. The only competent one of the bunch is Merkel, and all she ever has to do is just say, nine. You will give you nothing. Nine. And, put on the Mama Merkel Act. Bullshit. You get nothing. You have nothing. You have no leverage. You have nothing. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's like that great comedy routine about the guy who the guy did, likening to being in a Burger King. You guys want to leave? Okay, I'll go talk to the manager. That one. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They are desperate. Glenn Horowitz just says to remind us that they could pull some kind of false flag to distract everybody, and then I know that that's possible. I think they've already tried everything that they're going to try. I don't think they're going to pull another Joe Cox. It didn't work the last time, and it's really, I think, backfiring on them this time. You have to realize that this is far deeper than that. They thought they had this under control. These people are just never actually ever been challenged. They just always held an immensely stacked deck. Okay, an immensely stacked deck, and that deck is not stacked anymore. That deck is marked, and we know what the marks look like. And we're I mean, it's ridiculous. Cement just says that his money is on the odious Jeremy Hunt. He is making noises about putting WTO back on the table. Is completely in Murdoch's pocket and has a habit of falling upwards for prime minister. Well, yeah, that's not a bad choice, to be honest with you. I don't know that it's going to matter because there's going to be a general election at some point. At that point, I mean, at some point, Jeremy Corbyn has to call a vote of no confidence. You know, they're going to continue to try and freeze Farage out of all Brexit negotiation talks. That's not going to work. I don't know that that's going to work either. It's all really insane. And I know Farage is making the statement that he's going to demand to be a part of the talks and not offer himself up this time, but demand to be part of it. And you don't have any idea how these people in Brussels are not going to be able to contain themselves. They're not going to be able to contain any. Once this happens, once they lose hundreds of seats to Eurosceptics and to people who hate them, what's going to happen at that point is what's left of the masks of people like Donald Tusk and Verhofstadt and Juncker and the rest of it, it's all going to fall. And the old enmities and the old divisions and the old prejudices and the old racial divides across Europe are going to be front and center all the way across the European Parliament and all the way across European politics. It's already there, and it's only going to get worse from here. And it's going to start taking the form of just outright revenge. We've already seen some of that, especially the way Verhofstadt has acted, especially in the way that Macron has acted. These people don't think that they shouldn't be in charge, and it's very sad to see them flail out like the bunch of, you know, prep school bullies that they are. I mean, the only one who's not of all of them, the only one who's actually, you know, a hardened warrior is frickin' Merkel. And she's on her last legs politically. Desperation leads to false flags. Yes, asked Marty Hirsch. It does. But, you know, it may not matter in Britain. The vote's tomorrow. They have to pull something out in the next 12 hours. Unless they shut down the voting booths. But, you know, May bringing the withdrawal agreement to a vote a fourth time after the election was meant to try and negate the effects of the election. Because if they had gotten that across the line, you know, then Brexit would have been official. All those MEPs would not seat in the European Parliament. The election will be nullified, and then they'd move on to the second stage of negotiations because they had a withdrawal agreement, and there wouldn't be anything else after that. And that's what they were trying for. And she was very cynically, she threw her entire party under the bus, calling for a second referendum. She just came right out and said, I work for the globalists. This is what we need to do. And I can't believe that it's taken this long for the leadership within the Tories to finally put this woman out to pasture. El Vaquero says, I couldn't cope with being on the EU parliamentary floor. I'd eventually lose my temper on somebody like Verhofstadt and make him eat his teeth. Yeah, I mean, and he's got terrible teeth. They fall right down his throat because they'd fall right out of his head. Because, you know, the dark side does that to you. I don't know what you mean by the phrase moose looms, says Marty Hurst says, how about dragging waves of moose looms to, Muslims. Sorry. Okay. I got it. So the peeps beg the EU to save them. Oh, I can't dance worth a shit. I'm just jealous of Megalo says I'm just jealous of Theresa May's dancing skills. She does the white man's overbite brilliantly. So, whatever, dude. I do dance in 5-4, though. I will say that. Will something similar happen in the U.S. with Republicans and Democrats? We're not there yet. Ballot access laws don't allow for that. No, we're stuck on the road to the Republicans and Democrats until the end, until they cancel the elections, declare martial law, and half the country secedes. That's the path the United States will take, because the ballot access laws are impossible. And you, Jonathan, live in Oklahoma, which has the worst ballot access laws in the entire country. At least they did. I don't know. I'm a couple of years out of date about that, but that's completely different. The fact that the Brits can spin up a party, get it on all ballots in 5 weeks' time is an unbelievable thing. We can't do that here in the United States. It takes years to set up a political party. And hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars just to set the party up across all 50 states. And then every state has its own ballot access laws, and they're all onerous. Because we don't just want the riffraff getting on the ballot. We will have a no-deal Brexit. The EU will want to get rid of UKIP, Brexit, and Tommy Robinson, and the Brexit part. And Tommy Robinson, the Brexit party, will have to sit near. Carl, I really needed you to put some punctuation in that, because I don't understand the grammar of that sentence. I hate to say it. I'd love to read all your comments, guys, but I can't. If I can't parse the grammar, then I can't parse the sentence. So this thing goes plaid this weekend, and watching this play out, especially in the financial markets, watch the pound. Right, the pound is trading below $1.27. The remainers will all go, oh my God, look, the pound is dropping. Yeah, so what? The pound is 15% overvalued. That only plays into Farage's hands. A 15% drop in the pound would be the best thing that can happen to the Brits right now. Because as this plays out over the course of the next 6 months, a 15% drop in the pound will make Britain more competitive in the open market around the world. And you'll see tourism and GDP and spending numbers rise. Yeah, inflation will rise a little bit as well, but so what? You know, this whole all of this is silly at this point. They cry doom and gloom. You know, the pound is too strong. It needs to be devalued. Yeah, at 120. So I think you'll see the pound drop to on any inkling of a hard Brexit. We'll see the pound drop to $1.10. But you have to understand that Europe is absolutely desperate right now. They understand that a split of the Brits from Europe breaks all sorts of collateral chains across the entire European financial system. Okay, we're already flirting with Deutsche Bank on the verge of bankruptcy. Okay, Merkel is desperate now to try and save her banking system. The ECB is trapped. Okay, the Italians are screwed. It's we're getting a breakout in the dollar to the upside. Collateral chains are going to start to collapse. The interest rates are going to start to rise outside of the United States, and it's just going to start getting, the dollar liquidity is going to start tightening up. The emerging markets are going to start to collapse. That's going to contagion over into Italian and Dutch and French banks, and all the imbalances within the European banking system built up through Target 2 and all those other things are going to destroy what's left of the German banking system. The German economy is imploding. German car sales are imploding. German industrial production is imploding. Okay? The best thing the Brits can do right now is to get away from all these people and let them collapse. Theresa May's Thordium's telling me that Andrea Leadsom just resigned. Wow. Wow. No worries, Carlin Williams. I get it. So Brexit Party will hate sitting with Tommy Robinson. True. The MSM have blocked all stories on his speeches and government agenda. I know that. That's going to be an interesting problem. But the bigger issue is going to be, but that's not that big an issue. Because if UKIP only polls 3 or 4%, then it's not going to matter very much. Wow. Leadsom just that means that May is going to be gone by the end of the weekend, if not tonight. Holy Jesus, that's going to be great. That's awesome. I mean, this is like a day for like celebration. If my stomach wasn't so upset, I'd drink. Ugh. Oh my God. Like, that's good. This is good news. Finally, Andrea Leadsom needed to do this 2 years ago. She needed to stand up to Theresa May 2 years ago. But understand that the internal Tory politics and the external pressure of the British political class and Brussels said, no, we're going to put May in charge and she's going to do Brussels' bidding. No more sexy dance moves. Oh my God. Jesus. Yeah, I could use a gin and tonic right now. Ugh. I don't care. I don't even care which. I prefer Boodles, but I'll take Seagram's Extra Dry. Yeah. So it's all happening. It's all good. This is great. Tomorrow's going to be even better. Expect 40+% out of the Brexit Party, and then expect after that and they're going to put off the general election for as long as possible. You wait. They're going to put off the general election for as long as possible. They're going to try and save the Tory party by saying, oh no, we're going to go for a no deal. Maybe it'll be Jeremy Hunt, as was suggested earlier. Maybe it'll be somebody else. It won't be Jacob Rees-Mogg. It won't be any of those guys. What I would recommend to most of the hardcore Tory backbenchers, the ERG, the 1922 committee, and whatnot, what I would suggest to all of them, is that when the general election comes and the polls show that the Conservatives don't have a chance, or prayer in hell, that they all switch over to the Brexit Party, giving Farage 50 to 70 or 100 seats, 50, 70, 80, 100 seats to go into the election with, which will draw even more people off of the fence. Because at this, you have to realize that if Tory MPs start leaving in droves to move to Farage, okay, then a lot of people who've voted Tory all their life or are scared of Labour or scared of this, you got to remember that in a first past the post system, people usually vote against the guy they hate more than they vote for the person they love. They usually vote out of fear. So it's imperative that guys like Mogg and Owen Patterson and the rest of them stand up and get this thing over the line by showing leadership finally and leaving the Tories behind, moving to the party that will deliver the policy that's the most important. And give the people the backbone to not vote out of fear against Jeremy Corbyn, but to vote for what they want. I'm Patrick Vidian. You're speaking to the Patrick Vidian says, nah, we'll have them before 2022. I know what I mean is that I think they should have a general election, Patrick, in like 6 weeks, but they'll probably put it off until the end of the year. And I also agree with you, Patrick, that we should destroy all political parties because they are control constructs of the cabal. I agree with that as well. Speaking to my anarchist bona fides here, I'm just having to do the hardcore political analysis. But you can see what's happening here. This is anarchy in motion, right? This is absolutely anarchy in motion, right? This is people who refuse to be. This is what happens when you take people and you try to control them too much. They eventually just say, no, nuts to all of you. I can do that. See, I know I'm nuts to all of you. We Italians do that, but 2 fingers up. So That's where we are. Jonathan, I'm not going to answer that question because that's stupid. It's not germane for right now. So this is anarchy in motion. This is what you're talking about. This is what happens when people start thinking for themselves and acting individually, not as a part of a labeled group and using their in-group, out-group bias and all of that stuff. They start going, no. This is what I want, and I'm gonna. This is what I want, and I don't care. I don't care what came before. I don't care about tradition. I don't care about any of that crap. This is intolerable. This is the old institutional order is incapable of producing a result that is in anybody's best interest. Y'all need to go away. This is one of the great stories of our times, guys. It doesn't get any better than this. Hollywood screenwriters couldn't write a better story than this. They tried to. Snoke for PM. Nice. So Matt just says, if this whole thing is stage managed, that it was written by those two bozos from Game of Thrones. Marty Hurt says, won't a real successful Brexit cause other countries to bail out in rapid succession, feeling emboldened? That's what they're terrified of in Brussels. They're terrified of this because if Britain gets away with this, I got news for you. There's Matteo Salvini sitting there in Rome going, how do I figure out how do I get this done? Yeah, I mean, come on. And you can see it happening. Carl Davis, I have never voted in the Euro elections before, but tomorrow I will vote for the Brexit Party. The turnout for tomorrow will be a record and primarily against the EU. Carl, good for you. Good for you. If I was in Britain right now, if I was a Brit, if I had any ties or any ability to vote in the Brit, I would fly my ass over to there tomorrow. Fill out the little ballot paper, do the thing. We need a clean start, and you need to clear the old parties out. You're absolutely correct, Carl Williams. It's unbelievable. I mean, honestly, the United Kingdom in its current form may not survive this. I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's very possible that you'll get a second Scottish referendum, that Wales will try to secede. It's very possible. Northern Ireland might try to secede. It's very possible. But if that's what Brexit means, that's what Brexit means. But people should be, the Scots should be free to make the terrible decision, the terrible mistake to go and ally themselves with Guy Verhofstadt and the rest of those sons of bitches. If that's what they want, that's what they want. He just wants to make the trains run on time. Exactly. You guys are funny. All right, so this is way too long, and I've been doing this this is way too much. I don't want to belabor this any longer, but this is really cool. Andrea Leadsom gone means Theresa May gone. We'll never see her again. She didn't get this thing across the line. She didn't win, so she's not going to get her golden parachute, and neither is her husband. The truth of the matter is that if they don't get that withdrawal agreement through, they'll both wind up penniless. Brexit before the Germans get here. Oh, man. Oh, I know. It's terrible. The Germans are, the way the Germans have been running this is just horrible. The EU is a terrible, terrible institution. It's vile. It's the worst thing of the modern era, and it needs to go away. It needs to die. And not just it doesn't need to die a slow, painful death. It needs to die a very quick death. And let us deal with the chaos and the fallout afterwards. It honestly wouldn't be that terrible. The hardest part will be rewriting all the financial contracts that are written in euros. So that's not the hard. That's the easy part. And that's just a bunch of lawyers sitting around and getting that work done. How long until Deutsche Bank goes pop? Monday? The EU is simply the Germans trying to take Europe and the rest of the world with banks, not tanks. Except now they want tanks. Yep. Nancy V says she's half Hungarian and so proud of Orban. I'm non-Hungarian and I'm proud of Orban. Of course, I'm all Italian and kind of got a soft spot for Salvini. All right, guys. You guys have a great afternoon. I've got stuff I want to do before I kick off for the afternoon. So I got to go. I got to get off this I gotta get off this microphone before I lose my voice. You guys take care. You have a great afternoon. We'll probably talk tomorrow because I'm sure nothing will happen between now and then. You guys take care. You be good. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.